Câu chuyện này nói về hai cái cậu nhóc. Một cậu thì chơi baseball, rồi một cậu kia từ cái chỗ khác tới, rồi cũng trở nên rất là popular vì lý do là không có mời anh này qua dự sinh nhật và chơi các trò chơi á, nên trở thành anh này nghĩ là anh kia là kẻ thù của mình. Vì vậy anh ghi cái tên của anh bạn mới đó treo lên trên chỗ cái nhà trên cây á, rất là không thích, muốn coi như anh bạn mới này là đi khỏi đây, biến mất khỏi đây. Vì như vậy thì người cha biết được và nói rằng là ok, cha sẽ cho con một cái cách làm sao để làm cho enemy, kẻ thù biến mất. Đó, thì các bạn hãy tìm hiểu coi cái cách này như thế nào nha. Rồi chúng ta bắt đầu.
It should have been a perfect summer. My dad helped me build a tree house in our backyard. My sister was at camp for 3 whole weeks, and I was on the best baseball team in town.
Không có tiếng hả?
It should have been a perfect summer. My dad helped me build a tree house in our backyard. My sister was at camp for 3 whole weeks, and I was on the best baseball team in town. It should have been a perfect summer, but it wasn't. It was all good until Jeremy Ross moved into the neighborhood, right next door to my best friend Stanley. I did not like Jeremy Ross. He laughed at me when he struck me out in a baseball game. He had a party on his trampoline, and I wasn't even invited. But my best friend Stanley was.
Okay, and now at this point, Jeremy Ross was also play in the baseball team, and then he beats this guy. Okay, he beats the boy. His name is Tom. So he's laughed when he win the game. He was laughing at Tom. So Tom didn't like Jeremy from that point.
Jeremy Ross was the one and only person on my enemy list. I never even had an enemy list until he moved into the neighborhood. But as soon as he came along, I needed one. I hung it up in my treehouse, where Jeremy Ross was not allowed to go. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too. But he knew of a way to get rid of them.
Okay, so cái từ mà làm cho ai đó biến mất hoặc là gạch sổ ra thì gọi là get rid of. Get rid of.
Tell me how.
Tell you how? I'll show you how,
he said. He pulled a really old recipe book off the kitchen shelf. Inside, there was a worn-out scrap of paper with faded writing. Dad held it up and squinted at it.
Enemy pie.
Okay. So the dad, when the dad knew that his son has an enemy, he told the son that back in the day when I was your age, I have many enemies too. And the boy asked, how do you get rid of the enemy? So the dad say, well, he went to the kitchen and he took out a paper from the cooking book. In that page, there's a recipe for making the pie. And so he ripped that off and he squinted his eye to look at the paper, because the letter is too small, so he squinted his eye to look. And hold on.
He said, satisfied. You may be wondering what exactly is enemy pie. I was wondering too. But Dad said the recipe was so secret he couldn't even tell me. I decided it must be magic. I begged him to tell me something, anything.
I will tell you this,
he said.
Enemy pie is the fastest known way to get rid of enemies.
Okay, so at this point, the dad was very secrecy, rất là bí mật. He didn't tell the boy anything about this ingredient, and the boy was really curious. He wanted to know what's in it. Why is it called enemy pie? And so to steam off, để mà giải quyết cái curiosity của cái boy này, cái con trai, thì ông chỉ nói là enemy pie is the fastest known way to get rid of enemies, là một cái cách được biết là cách nhanh nhất để get rid of enemies. Rồi, giờ chúng ta sẽ qua tiếp.
Now, of course, this got my mind working. What kinds of things, disgusting things, would I put into a pie for an enemy? I brought Dad some weeds from the garden, but he just shook his head. I brought him earthworms and rocks, but he didn't think he'd need those.
Okay, so the boy thought the pie should be horrible, right? Put some disgusting ingredient into the pie. So he went to the garden and pulled out some weeds, and he brought the weeds. Weeds là cỏ ha. To show his dad, and his dad said, and then he took out some worm, nhúng đất đó nè, and then rocks to his dad. And his dad said, "Oh, we don't need those."
I gave him the gum I'd been chewing all morning. He gave it right back to me.
Okay. So he chewed the gum inside his mouth for the whole morning. It's like, "Here you go, Dad. I have some extra gum here. Put it in the pie." And Dad said, "No. Here you go. I'll give it back to you. You can keep it."
I went out to play, alone. I shot baskets until the ball got stuck on the roof. I threw a boomerang that never came back to me. And all the while, I listened to the sounds of my dad chopping and stirring and blending the ingredients of enemy pie. This could be a great summer after all. Enemy pie was gonna be awful.
So the boy went out to his garage. This is called garage. Where you park your car is it's called garage, huh? And then he played basketball, and he threw the ball, and the ball stuck up to the roof. It never came back. So he has this boomerang. Okay, boomerang is a toy where you throw it and it spin in the air. It come back to you. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so boomerang, that one. And all the boy was hearing, it was his dad chopping, cutting the food, and stirring the pot to make the pie inside the house. That's it. And then he thought, wow, this could be a great summer, because the pie will be awful. The pie will be bad.
I tried to imagine how horrible it must smell, or worse yet, what it would look like. But when I was in the backyard, looking for ladybugs, I smelled something really, really, really good. And as far as I could tell, it was coming from our kitchen. I was a bit confused.
Okay, you know when somebody confused, they think it would be opposite. Okay, so the boy was expecting the pie to smell really bad, or it looked horrible, but then he smelled from the kitchen, and the pie smelled really good. So it's opposite of what he was thinking the pie would look like or smell.
I went in to ask Dad what was wrong. Enemy pie shouldn't smell this good. But Dad was smart.
If enemy pie smelled bad, your enemy would never eat it.
So That's the point, right? Too bad. Your enemy will know you tricking them. So it has to be good. It has to smell really good.
He said. I could tell he'd made enemy pie before. The buzzer rang, and Dad put on the oven mitts and pulled the pie out of the oven.
Okay, so you know the regular gloves? Gloves
No.
put on your hand. Bao tay là gloves.
But it was rang.
Okay, so the buzzer rang because
Okay.
he put a timer. He put a timer on the oven, and the time is up. The buzzer rang.
It was rang.
Yeah.
What about meat?
Okay, the mitt,
Oven.
it's like the oven mitt.
Yeah.
You wear the oven gloves. Okay, oven gloves is called mitts.
No, I don't have any idea.
So he put on something, right? He put on something. Okay, that's something. Is
Oh
called,
yeah.
yeah, oven mitts.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it.
The oven mitts and pulled the pie an old pie. It looked good enough to eat. I was catching on. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to the enemies? Maybe it made their hair fall out, or their breasts stinky. Maybe it made bullies cry.
So with it, Tom is thinking is that when the enemy eat this pie, his hair, the enemy hair, will start to fall down. All the enemy breath will be very stinky. Or it make the bully. The bully is it's like enemy. A bully is someone who scare you. Okay, called bully.
I asked Dad, but he was no help. He wouldn't tell me a thing. But while the pie cooled, he filled me in on my job. He talked quietly.
There is one part of enemy pie that I can't do. In order for it to work, you need to spend a day with your enemy. Even worse, you have to be nice to him. It's not easy, but that's the only way that enemy pie can work. Are you sure you want to go through with this?
Of course I was. It sounded horrible. It was scary. But it was worth a try.
Okay, so the dad would try to convince the boy to accept this plan by saying that, okay, the plan is really hard. You have to go to your enemy and be friend with your enemy. And the worst thing is, you have to somehow ask him to eat the pie, okay? And then he asked, okay, are you sure you want to continue? You want to carry out this plan? And the boy was, because he was so excited about this plan to get rid of his enemy, so he said, of course, yes. Okay, let's give it a try, okay? It's worth it.
All I had to do was spend one day with Jeremy Ross. Then he'd be out of my hair for the rest of my life. I rode my bike to his house and knocked on the door. When Jeremy opened the door, he seemed surprised. He stood on the other side of the screen door and looked at me, waiting for me to say something. I was nervous. Can you play? I asked. He looked confused. I'll go ask my mom, he said.
Okay, so screen door, let me show you.
He came back with his shoes in his hand. His mom walked around the corner to say hello.
You boys stay out of trouble,
she said, smiling. We rode bikes for a while and played on the trampoline. Then we made some water balloons and threw them at the neighbor girls, but we missed. Jeremy's mom made us lunch. After lunch, we went over to my house. It was strange.
So they play with the road bikes and play with trampoline. Okay, trampoline is something look like this. Something look like that. You bounce, jump, keep jumping, and it's bounce for you. So Tom ate lunch at Jeremy's house.
After lunch, we went over to my house. It was strange, but I was kind of having fun with my enemy. He almost seemed nice. But of course, I couldn't tell Dad that, since he had worked so hard to make this enemy pie. Jeremy Ross liked my basketball hoop. He said he wished he had a basketball hoop.
So they play with each other, and they throw a balloon at the girl, but they didn't make it. All of the balloon missed. And then after they play at Jeremy's house, they came over to Tom's house. Okay, at this point, Tom was like, well, hold on, I'm kind of having fun with my enemy right now. They're having fun right now. So he was like, well, this seems a little bit strange, but it's fun. And then Jeremy saw the basketball hoop.
But they didn't have room for one. I let him win a game, just to be nice. Jeremy Ross knew how to throw a boomerang. He threw it, and it came right back to him. I threw it, and it went over my house and into the backyard.
So that's a boomerang. Jeremy knows how to throw it, but Tom did not. And so Jeremy taught Tom how to throw the boomerang.
When we climbed over the fence to find it, the first thing Jeremy noticed was my treehouse. My treehouse was my treehouse. I was the boss. If my sister wanted in, I didn't have to let her. If my dad wanted in, I didn't have to let him. And if Jeremy wanted in, "Can we go in it?" he asked. I knew he was going to ask me that, but he was the top person, the only person on my enemy list, and enemies aren't allowed in my treehouse.
When Tom threw his boomerang, it went back to his yard. So both of them come back to his yard and get the boomerang. And when they both went back to the backyard, the first thing that they saw was the tree house. So tree's house up on the top. And because Tom was thinking that Jeremy still my enemy, so whenever he asked if he can climb the tree house, I'd probably say no. Okay, my question for you is, do you think Tom would let Jeremy climb his tree house?
I think I may let enemy go into the tree house.
Okay, so you say Tom will let Jeremy climb the house, right? Alright, let's see.
But he did teach me how to throw a boomerang, and he did have me over for lunch, and he did let me play on his trampoline. He wasn't being a very good enemy. Okay, I said, but hold on. I climbed up ahead of him and tore the enemy list off the wall. I had a checkerboard and some cards in the treehouse, and we played games until my dad called us down for dinner.
Okay, so there's one word that I wanted to point it out for you. It's the word hold on. Okay, so when you say hold on, you ask a person to wait. Okay, so wait. Okay, so Jeremy, because Jeremy he has a paper like enemy list. He has an enemy list with Jeremy name on it. So he didn't want Jeremy. When Jeremy climbed up, he didn't want Jeremy to see the list that say enemy. So he climbed up first and tear up the paper, and they play up there, play game until his dad came in and say, "Hey, you guys go down. We will eat dinner."
Off the wall. I had a checkerboard and some cards in the treehouse, and we played games until my dad called us down for dinner. We pretended we didn't hear him, and when he came up to get us, we tried to hide from him, but somehow he found us. Dad made us macaroni and cheese for dinner, my favorite. It was Jeremy's favorite too. Maybe Jeremy Ross wasn't so bad after all. I was beginning to think that maybe we should just forget about enemy pie. But sure enough, after dinner, Dad brought out the pie. I watched as he cut the pie into 8 thick slices. "Dad," I said, "it sure is nice having a new friend in the neighborhood." I was trying to get his attention and trying to tell him that Jeremy Ross was no longer my enemy. But Dad only smiled and nodded. I think he thought I was just pretending.
The boy was trying to hide from the dad. The dad said, "Hey kid, go down and eat." And they said they were hiding from the dad. They giggling or something. So the dad said, "Okay, come on, come down. Don't hide from me. I know you up there." So they went down, and Dad make macaroni and cheese. Look something like this. Okay, macaroni and cheese is this food. So there's a lot of cheese with Dewey cheese. Both Tom and Jeremy like the same food, right? And so Jeremy thought, well, Jeremy is actually a good friend to have in the neighborhood. So he wants the dad to know that, hey, Dad, Jeremy is no longer my enemy. He's my friend now. After they ate macaroni and cheese, Dad brought the pie out. So he bring out the pie, and he said, "Not trust me, you know." And he will offer them pie.
But Dad only smiled and nodded. I think he thought I was just pretending. Dad dished up 3 plates side by side, with big pieces of pie and giant scoops of ice cream. He passed one to me and one to Jeremy. "Whoa," Jeremy said, looking at the pie. "My dad never makes pies like this." It was at this point that I panicked. I didn't want Jeremy to eat enemy pie. He was my friend. I couldn't let him eat it. "Jeremy, don't eat it. It's bad pie. I think it's poisonous or something." He crumpled his eyebrows and looked at me funny. I felt relieved. I had just saved his life. I was a hero. "If it's so bad," Jeremy asked, "then why has your dad already eaten half of it?" I turned to look at my dad. Sure enough, he was eating enemy pie.
Okay, so Jeremy was a little bit confused because he saw Tom's dad was eating almost half of the pie happily with a smile, big smile. And he said, "Why? If the pie is poisonous, if the pie is bad, why your dad eating half of it already?"
Good stuff.
He mumbled through a mouthful, and that was all he said. I sat there watching them eat enemy pie for a few seconds. Dad was laughing, Jeremy was happily eating, and neither of them was losing any hair. It seemed safe enough, so I took a tiny taste. Enemy pie was delicious!
Okay, so both of them, Jeremy and his dad, ate the pie. And Jeremy thought, okay, after they ate the pie, the hair should be fallen down. But the hair's still there. Nothing had fallen. And so he took enemy pie and he ate it. And it tastes delicious.
After dessert, Jeremy rode his bike home, but not before inviting me over to play in his trampoline in the morning. He said he'd teach me how to flip.
So dessert là đặc biệt đó hả? Dessert. And so after ate the pie, Jeremy rode his bike back to his house. And then in the morning, invite Tom over to play with the trampoline. And Jeremy said, okay, this time I'll teach you how to jump and flip on the trampoline.
As for enemy pie, I still don't know how to make it. I still wonder if enemies really do hate it, or if their hair falls out, or if their breath turns bad. But I don't know if I'll ever get an answer, because I just lost my best enemy.